Attention shoppers. The mall will be closing in 8 hours. Please bring your final purchases to a register so that you may complete your purchase. Hey Greg, welcome to the mall.
Hey, it's good to be back. I've missed the mall.
It's been a while.
It's been a very long time.
Like, what, 30 years maybe? I don't know.
At least. For such a place I spent so much of my adolescence at. It's been a long time.
Yeah, and it's weird to go back, I've been to a few of the malls, that are still around where I grew up, and it's so weird. It's like almost like a ghost town at some of them. So many of the stores are closed.
It's really sad. Yeah. I took the kids there to a mall not that long ago, and I think for every one store open, one was closed.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of a ghost town.
Yeah.
But they still had a good time, but it doesn't have that vibe anymore. It's not that, you go there to do, some shopping or whatever, maybe grab something to eat, see a movie. But it doesn't have the, you might bump into your friends or, something fun might happen. It just doesn't have that mystique anymore.
Yeah. And I was reading about even one of the malls that was close to where I grew up. It was the first one in the area. And then a bunch of years later, a newer, bigger mall was built right across the street. And so that older one, it kind of became where all the senior citizens would hang out, and they just would walk, they'd get there and they'd walk their path around the mall. And so when we'd go back, it was just sad. You'd see the stores closed. You'd just see this like mob of old people meandering around. And it's so sad in a way to see it decline,
Definitely, yeah. I know that we, growing up, I lived in the rural New Jersey, and so we had to drive an hour to a mall. Oh. But when I turned around, I think it was like 13, a mall opened up like about 20 minutes away.
Oh, nice.
And it was awesome to be like, and at that time my brother drove, so it was like, hey Dave, take me to the mall.
Yeah. And that was the coolest. Like, I had an older brother too, so when he got to that point as well, where you had that autonomy, and two of you would hop in the car and go to the mall, and just
look at pretty girls, eat a slice of pizza, get a Wetzel's pretzel.
There you go. Yeah, maybe an orange Julius.
Most definitely. Yeah, I mean, definitely hanging at the mall was the best, and like I think you said the right word, the autonomy. That whether it was my brother driving me or before then when my parents would, it was either they would drop you off and they'd be like, all right, see you in 2 hours, and you're on your own, or maybe they would go shopping at JCPenney and you would have your own time to do something.
Yeah. And there was, some really cool stores back then too that, some of them I think are still around, but, kids aren't, nobody's asking to go to Spencer's now, but back when we were there, I mean, that was one of the cool stores, Have you heard any of the stories about Spencer's and how it kind of came to be?
I didn't know there was a story, but I definitely like Spencer's was like one of the main reasons to go to the mall. What it's not just like a regular store?
Yeah, I was surprised to find that it was actually a mail order catalog store. I think back in like 1947, the guy who started it, started with his brother. It was mail order only. And it was like that for, I think, until the early 60s.
Okay.
But they sold like really weird random stuff.
I was going to say, what kind of products did they have?
It was like a backyard skating rink they sold, a cotton candy making machine. I think there was a point in the 50s where they sold donkeys as like a...
You're just making it up.
No, I'm serious.
You're just making this up.
Like, the new domestic pet, not a dog or a cat, but a donkey for, I think it was $85. You could buy a donkey.
So you could get a piece. You can get. Never mind.
Yep. Moving on. But yeah, and then they finally opened their first store. I think in like '63. It was in New Jersey, Cherry Hill.
Everything good came from New Jersey.
That's right. And they were all about creating this like environment where almost like a circus, where you would walk by and you'd see these lights and colors and really want people to get drawn in. And thinking back to it, I mean, it was all neon and black lights, and it was amazing. It was like a circus entrance. What were you gonna find in Spencer's?
You just said something I brought back a memory. Black light posters.
Yeah.
Did you have any black light posters?
I think I was a little bit older when I finally got a black light,
Okay.
but, when I was 13 and stuff, it was always, what you'd see at Spencer's, but I don't remember having one myself. Did you have one?
I did. I wish I could. I like can remember the colors, but I don't remember what the content was.
Yeah.
But it was kind of fuzzy. It had like
Yeah. It was like the velvet paintings.
yeah, exactly, like a Velvet Elvis.
Yeah. 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 And the lava lamps,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
had to get the lava lamp.
Yeah. 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 Don't catch fire because it's basically a light bulb with a bunch of hot liquid and wax on it,
And in the back there was the posters. They had
Mhm.
like the best posters
Yeah.
at Spencer's.
Yeah.
I remember before I went to college, I bought some. Do you remember Edward Gorey?
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember those crazy
Uh-huh.
posters? I
Yeah.
had a couple of those because they were just the coolest
Mhm.
to me, anyway.
Yeah, and I know we talked about Iron Maiden before, but they had all of the cool, Eddie inspired, skeleton graphics and
Yes.
everything, and
Yeah.
like every heavy metal band had their variety of posters, Poison and
Yeah.
Rat and
Yeah, Motley Crue,
Striper.
Striper. That's so funny.
Yeah, yeah, and I think around Halloween they would also, they'd have a section where they'd have all the Halloween masks, like the Wolfman.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I
At least
don't
at the
remember.
store,
Yeah.
in where I grew up, they had all these really expensive, really cool Halloween masks. We'd try them on, and you'd smell of rubber and be like, oh. But they were cool.
Share some sweat with the 12 other kids who just put it over their face.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Oh, that's awesome. And they had like, if I remember, they also had good T-shirts, right? Didn't they have like a good selection of T-shirts?
Yeah. And I think they had, like concert shirt style shirts.
Yes.
And I had gotten one. They were sort of like long sleeve. The sleeves would be one color, and then the center would be black with these.
And the sleeves were white.
graphics. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had a Duran one. So yeah.
Very cool.
Very cool. Right.
It wasn't the 3/4 sleeve. It was a full.
No, I
full
think you might be right. Yeah, I think it might have been a 3/4. I'll have
you
to
know.
check. I'll check the bin. I'm sure I have it.
1980s 3/4 tee.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. They had the concert T-shirts, so you could get them even if you didn't go to the concert and look like you were there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That is cool.
I do remember there's sort of the gag gift section too in Spencer's. You get your whoopee cushion and your
Fake poop.
Yeah, always gotta have your fake poop.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was that one little aisle that they had the adult stuff.
Yes, the forbidden section. Yeah.
My mom would always be like, "Don't go down that aisle." Yeah, so
And
we'd make a beeline for it.
You would just go to the back of the store and come up the aisle, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Spencer's was the fun place. That was definitely the gonna go check out Spencer's, right?
Yeah.
Any other cool facts about like what they were besides selling donkeys?
Outside of that, I think the biggest thing I remember about them is that they would get in trouble here and there with certain government agencies because they would push the limit of
Oh, really?
Some of the adult material in certain areas.
Okay.
You'd have to register the store to be able to sell certain stuff.
Yeah.
And so there were certain, I think one of the stores in New Jersey, they came in and confiscated everything out of the store. And it wasn't anything super, over the top, but it was enough that there were ordinances that if it was considered that, you had to register it. So you'd get in trouble.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Which just created more buzz about the store. And I
Right.
think they were all about it,
Thanks for the free advertising.
Exactly. Yeah.
Any other stores that come to your mind when you think 80s malls?
Well, I know, we talked about the idea of the movie theaters coming into malls.
Yes.
That was a big thing.
It was.
Those first early, I don't know if you can call them dates, but when you go to the mall, meet a girl, and watch a movie together. But yeah, we had one mall, the older mall, had a 2-theater. It was called the Plaza.
Huh?
My brother worked there.
Of course he did.
Yeah, he had a great time making popcorn, and I think he worked there for a week and a half. And then we had the multiplex that came in, and that was a big deal. The General Cinema came in, and we had, I think it was 5 or 6 theaters, and that was a big deal.
That was a big deal. Yeah, because growing up, I think I remember most movie theaters were 1 or 2 screens. It wasn't until later on that you got the multiplexes. 8 million movies and 20 different show times. And
Yeah. And it was a big deal too, because before that it was one of the, I think it's probably a historic theater now. It's called the Roxy Theater.
Okay.
The old sort of, mezzanine, the balcony.
Oh, really?
The big velvet curtain. It was this really cool theater.
Oh, that is cool.
Actually saw Spaceballs there with my
Nice.
buddies. But, it was one theater and one, they just had one movie, but to have that multi-option, that was a big deal when the general cinema came in. So.
And what were your thoughts on when the outdoor malls? I have my own thoughts on those. Like it was more of like a strip mall, but they called it a mall. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It felt weird when it first happened around here, probably when the kids were a little bit younger. There were elements that were good for the kids, like in the summer they'd have the like fountains and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, I just felt like it felt strange, growing up with the indoor mall. That always seemed more magical. But now I'm going to walk around in the cold in the winter, and I'm going to be in the heat in the summer. Like, where's the air conditioning and the arcade?
Exactly. Oh, speaking of arcades, that was my favorite place to go in a mall. I mean, that's the first stop I hit. Time Out. And Spaceport. Those were like two of the more popular ones, I think. That were out there.
I can never remember the name of Spaceport, but I always loved, going to the arcade. It was such a great time, and so much money.
So much.
How many quarters can you fit in your pocket?
Yeah.
And hopefully the coin machine wasn't broken, because if you have some bills on you,
that's right.
You gotta get those quarters.
And the coolest kid always had his birthday parties at the arcade, right? You get an hour, and all the games were set on free play or whatever, and. That was just the best.
Yeah. Now the arcades, I mean, even to the point where we would go to amusement parks and, there you are, you've got rides and, all this fun stuff that you can't get anywhere else. And yet somehow inevitably in the afternoon, we'd be in the arcade for a couple hours. Gotta love the arcade.
Yeah. And the food courts. Right, you gotta love the food courts where you could get like Panda Express or, what was that pizza place? It was in every single mall. I can't think of the name of it now. Darn it, I'm gonna have to.
Well, we had the Chuck E. Cheese outside of the mall, but we didn't have Chuck E. Cheese inside. Well, I guess back then it was actually Showbiz Pizza.
Showbiz Pizza, yes,
Then I think it was like it was the first animatronics. It was this like ragtag band of bears, I think, that would sing songs while you ate some mediocre pizza. Which eventually became a Chuck E. Cheese.
Chuck E. Cheese, yeah.
But I think you had a better mall than we did. We didn't have like the full food court. We had a bunch of different places. Like there was a McDonald's and I think there was an Arby's. And, a couple.
But
places.
outside the mall.
Those were inside the mall. But they were all sort of sporadic. It wasn't like a food court.
Oh, the traditional. Where they were all
together.
Okay. Yeah. So it was a good mall. We had lots of different options there. And it was nice because the arcade was right next to the food court.
Of course.
Of course it was.
So of the arcade games that were in your, the arcades where you grew up, what were your favorite games?
Oh, man. I mean, there's so many. I remember being absolutely infatuated with Dragon's Lair.
Yeah.
I mean,
your college tuition was definitely hurt by the amount of money that came $1 a play for 30 seconds.
We could probably do an entire episode on arcade games, right?
Definitely.
But just the idea, if anybody's unfamiliar with Dragon's Lair, it looked like a cartoon that you were controlling the character who was a knight and trying to save a princess from a dragon. But it was like you're watching a cartoon, and then you would make a movement when at the time was right, and hopefully you kept him from being impaled or caught on fire, whatever it was. And that was my favorite game as a little kid. I think later on, maybe oh my gosh, there's so many. Police Academy, or Police Trainer or something like that.
I remember there was one that was and it's terrible, I can't remember the name, but it was I think you were trying to get away from the police. And you were racing in a car.
Yes, I do remember that game.
And the name's escaping me right now. But a lot of the racing games, like Pole Position,
Position,
all those it's just a straight shot, and you're basically steering left and right. But I used to love those racing games. And then eventually you'd get the ones where it was like a booth.
Yes.
Where you'd be sitting. There was a few eventually where you could shift and
Yep. Cruising USA.
Yeah.
That was a little bit later, but that's a good
one. A
one.
lot of fun.
I like the ones that had the different controllers, right? Because you had the joystick and then the buttons. But I like the ones that maybe were a little different, like Paperboy, where it had the bike handle, and you'd be throwing the newspapers at the houses. Do you remember? This is always a funny one. Tapper. Where it was a beer, it was a beer dispenser, and I think they the one I played was the beer, and it even had a big Budweiser symbol in the background, obviously sponsored by Budweiser. Sure. But then they came out with I think a root beer version of it, a little more kid friendly.
And I think in Wreck-It Ralph they have Tapper in
that's
there.
right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Which, from movies that the kids watched when they were younger, I still loved. I thought Wreck-It Ralph was a fantastic movie. I really enjoyed the element throwback to, growing up in the arcade. And then, obviously the characters were good and everything.
Yeah. That was a good one. The sequel, not so much, but the OG was pretty good.
Yeah.
What other stores do you remember? Any stores that pop out? I mean, obviously Spencer's and the arcade was a.
We had it was a place called the Electronics Boutique.
Oh yeah, EB.
Yeah, and we used to go in there and just drool over the counter of games that they had, and right around that time we had the original Atari 2600, the cartridge games, but then we had gotten the Atari computer. I think it was like an 800 XL, and it was basically a keyboard, and you'd plug it into a television, and I think we had gotten a subscription from Electronics Boutique so that we could get these little programs that you could type in to this rudimentary computer, and we were like, oh, this is going to be amazing. You'd spend 2-3 hours typing in these hunt and peck, because we didn't know how to type, and it would animate like a letter or something. Like, it was not worth it. We were so bummed. And I think eventually we found one game, because there was a cartridge you could put in, or a cartridge bay, and we found Frogger. So we'd play Frogger with the keys instead of with the joy. Like, even that was terrible.
Kids today have no idea how good they have it.
Yeah. So, but it was the Electronics Boutique was cool though. Just the very definitive. This is all about gaming and computing, and the guys who worked there just seemed like they were so into that. It was fun.
That kind of reminds me of a Radio Shack.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That kind of had all those really neat kind of stuff that you wouldn't find anywhere else. Kinds of RC cars and computer components as well, from what I remember. So, yeah.
I remember, I think it was one year for my birthday, my parents had gotten me an RC car from Radio Shack, and I was super excited about it.
So good.
And we hook it all up, and I'm standing there, I got the controller in my hand, and I go to make it go, and it makes a left turn, and then it's just the wheels get stuck, and it's just going left. So it got returned, and we ended up getting a much better RC car.
Oh, you did? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's cool.
Say, Greg, do you remember the toy stores too?
Sure.
KB Toys.
Oh, KB. Yeah. Toys R Us.
Yeah.
Big one.
Yeah. We had Kitty City was one of the ones. I think that was a regional one.
Okay.
I don't think that was a national. But
it's got a good ring to it, but I don't know.
And I remember one summer, I think it was KB was clearing out all of their Atari games. That was a big thing because we grabbed a whole bunch of games that maybe $2, $3.
That was the dream.
Yeah. And I think there was a drugstore too. Either Woolworth or Revco or something like that. And we got all these great games that for $2, it was awesome.
That is great, because even if it was a bad game, for $2 you're still playing it, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember any of them?
We had gotten Sequest. I think there was a Sword Quest. There was Barnstorming.
Oh, Barnstormer. That was a great one.
Keystone Capers, I think we got.
Oh, yeah.
That was a fun one. You were like in a department store, and there was like a guy he had like stripes, like he was a criminal. And then you were one of the Keystone cops, and you would chase them through the department store, and he could go up an elevator or an escalator, and you'd have to try to catch him before he got to the top floor. I think it was pretty fun. We played it quite a bit.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was fun.
Yeah, I mean that's Atari was very underrated. I think I loved Atari. I wish I kept my Atari, instead of gotten rid of it. But we're gonna do an episode, right? You have an Atari all
Oh
ready
yeah,
to go for us.
yeah. I've got the old setup, and well, hopefully the paddles work. I know that's a
my
goal
thing.
to be able to play the paddle games. So hopefully they still work.
Might have to go on eBay and see if I can find a set of Atari paddles.
I'm sure they're out there.
What was your favorite game?
Oh, geez. I'm gonna say. I'm gonna go with Jungle Hunt. I think that was
Jungle
probably
Hunt?
one of my
Okay.
favorite. Yeah, we played that a lot. And Decathlon was
Oh, yeah.
it was a
Yeah,
crazy
yeah,
game
yeah.
because it was like you would be physically tired because you would be like rocking that joystick
Joystick.
back and forth
Yeah.
to and then hit the button for the pole vault or something like
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about
These
you?
are good. I love this. I think it was called Circus. It was a
Okay.
game where you would just bounce these. It was a balance. Not even. It was like a teeter totter, I guess you would call it.
Okay.
And they would jump onto it. The other guy would fly up into the air, and you'd have to get it so he hits the other end, and then he would jump up in the air. All meanwhile, you're trying to pop these balloons, which
Yeah.
are just squares at the top. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the imagination. I know we talked about this before, but you really had to have a good
Yeah.
imagination to play some of those games. But we found them fun, and we
Yeah.
played hours and hours and hours. So.
And Super Nintendo or not, Nintendo came with Mario
Sure.
and Duck Hunt as the basic game, but the basic game that came with Atari, I think it was 2600, was Combat.
Yeah.
Was the tank game,
Yep.
which was the worst game ever, but you still played it
Oh,
because
yeah.
it came with the system.
Well, and I think if I recall, there was a point where like you could bounce it, and if you hit it, the opposing tank would like jump through one of the barriers. And you'd get so mad because you'd have it lined up, and all of a sudden they would
Smack
bounce
you,
to another part of the screen.
But it was cool because they had different options. You had like bouncy walls,
Yeah.
right? Or some of them were like the walls were invisible, like you didn't know where the walls were, so
Yeah.
you're like basically blind trying to figure out where you're at.
Yeah, there were some great games, but
Combat might not have been one of them.
yeah, I do remember we had gotten Pac-Man.
I never
and
had Pac-Man.
My mom started playing it one day,
Yeah.
and she just kept playing, and she got to the point where she hit the 100,000 point.
No way.
And I think she was expecting something amazing to happen, and all it did was reset to zero. I don't think she ever played again. I think that was it. She was like, "I'm done."
That's it.
Yeah.
I was so good at asteroids.
Yeah.
If I got in a groove, man, I could play asteroids for hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a good one.
I think we had another game that was called Atlantis. That was like a single. It was sort of along the asteroids kind of thing, where you were
Yeah.
firing, up on the screen at objects that were going across.
Oh, okay.
But that game was one that we played quite a bit as well.
It reminds Missile Command.
Sure.
That was
Yeah.
one that
Very
I
similar
played.
to that.
Yeah. Again, the thing's coming down, you're shooting the rockets at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, I think it was maybe 3 years ago. We went to the shore. There's an arcade at the beach that we go to, and they have a lot of the
Nice.
old school games, but then they have like new versions of the old games.
Okay.
So they have asteroids, but you're sitting on a stool with a two-handed like Gatling gun kind of thing, and you're shooting at this screen that's probably, I don't know, 10 by 12. It's this humongous digital screen.
Cool. Okay.
And you're playing asteroids, but now you're holding this gun and you're swiveling in the chair, and it's just a blast to play it. And we play with the kids and
Of course.
and whatnot, and
And when the kids aren't around, you
yeah, exactly. Yeah, mom and I are gonna go get some groceries. We'll be back in an hour to spend it all at the arcade. But yeah, it's fun to they'll take those old games and sort of create something new out of them, and it's a blast. So yeah,
that is cool. Bringing back the retro.
that's all right.
Even though this, we're talking all about Atari games, this episode is about the mall because we got sidetracked. But I was thinking about the mall, and I found some interesting mall events. So, to our listeners, if you don't remember the malls were the place to be, right? That's where the most commerce occurred,
Sure,
right? That's where
yeah.
everybody went to spend their money. And so they would, malls would attract people, find ways to bring in an audience. And some of the ways they did that were with these little events and concerts, for example. So anybody remembers Tiffany, redheaded Tiffany?
Yeah.
Her last name's Darwish, but she
Okay.
got her break because she was at a mall tour And this was in 1987, and the mall tour was called The Beautiful You, Celebrating the Good Life Shopping Mall Tour, 1987.
Also sounds like a mission statement.
And it started in New Jersey.
Where everything amazing
Everything
starts,
amazing
right?
happens in New Jersey. Everything good comes. Right? And like I think most of us know that, right? We all know Tiffany was singing at a mall and got famous. But here's some other mall events that I found that I thought was kind of funny. The Nintendo Entertainment System, they started in New York I think it was 1988.
Okay.
To promote a new bunch of games. So they had like a whole, again, setting up a thing where you could come play the games and basically advertising for things. Another one, which I did not know occurred, was in 1983, Star Wars put out something called the Jedi Adventure Center. And oh, how I wish I got to do this. So basically it was like artwork, not, from what I could tell, it's just some artwork and cool stuff from the movie, but they did have like a set up Ewok village you could kind of like walk through.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure every kid wanted that experience, like who wouldn't want to live in the Ewok, towers and stuff.
Right. And then the last one I found, which was very odd, was Dallas star Patrick Duffy went on a mall tour in 1982. So for all you ladies out there, if you were lucky enough to see Patrick Duffy out there.
Yeah. You'd be part of the screaming fans that were besieging him.
I mean, hey, again, marketing. It was all in an effort to get people out of their homes and into the shopping centers to spend their money. So,
yeah. Well, I would guess probably some of that also stemmed from like the time frame where, prior to the mall existence, there wasn't like that disposable income of the generation before.
Right.
And now all of a sudden you have this, this generation where like you got a little extra money and now we're gonna spend it on donkeys and other random things, but yeah, like how can you get people to come to the mall and spend more money? And it seemed like some of the ideas they had were pretty cool and some slightly strange, but yeah.
And if you don't know what to spend your money on, come to a place where there's plenty of options to spend your money on.
Exactly. Yeah. All under one roof.
Yeah.
And you don't have to leave. We've got food for you.
Exactly. Yeah. I did find out some mall facts. Do you want to hear some quick? I'll keep it brief.
Yeah, let's
some
go.
Facts about
mall
mall
facts.
All right. You want to take a guess when the very first mall opened up?
I'll go with 1947.
Wow, 1922.
Wow,
is
holy
considered
cow.
In the 20s. That's actually 1922. That's 100 years ago.
That's crazy.
I didn't even.
Hey,
think
we're
about
celebrating.
Yeah.
Hey, that's why we're doing it. It's the celebration of malls.
Let's go re-record the intro. And this mall was called the Country Club Plaza.
Wow.
Located in Missouri.
Huh. Missouri.
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't know why, but this is pretty neat. Between the decade of the 80s, we saw in America 16,000 malls built.
Wow.
16,000 malls in 10 years built in America.
That's crazy.
Just do how about a couple more?
Sure.
All right. So this is now the downside of the popularity of malls. But in 2007, that was the very first time a mall was not built in the United States.
Wow. But, I think it's true to the way commerce has changed. I mean, you think about how much people buy online now versus, if I don't have to go out, why am I going to go out and, randomly go to different stores? And I mean, that was something I remember as a kid where my dad sometimes would say, I have to go get XYZ. And he'd go to the store and they wouldn't have it. And then he'd go to another store and they wouldn't have it. And then 4 hours later, my mom would be worried that my dad wasn't coming back because he, crashed his car or something. Meanwhile, it was just, he went to 8 different stores to buy one small item he needed. So, yeah, very different.
I was I liked the shopping experience. I'm not much of an online person. And in fact, so much that I actually enjoyed at Christmas time waiting till the late as possible to go and do some shop. Because, as a single guy, you don't have that much Christmas shopping to do.
Sure.
But, you park all the way out there. And this was like, early 2000s, really before the internet took over. And just the throngs of people going crazy, and I'm just taking my time walking through. I don't know. It was just kind of fun to experience that, and definitely not probably going to happen again.
Yeah. And I'm sure it was much more enjoyable for you since you were on rollerblades, so you could kind of just go through everybody.
Sliding on through. One more quick fact. It is predicted that 25% of America's 1,000 malls, so there's only about 1,000 malls left.
Wow.
25% will close by the year 2025. So
Yeah.
if you need to get to the mall,
You should go now. But wait, stay until the end of the episode and then go to the mall.
then go to the mall.
Yeah. And I mean, even around here, I've noticed there's quite a few that, they would just, they'd have like one anchor store and like 3 or 4 other random stores in them. And it just seems strange that they were even trying to keep it going.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, there's like, I know there's a mall near us that was sort of on that, it was in that direction where it kind of felt like they were going to close.
Yeah.
And then they kind of got a resurgence, and now they have an arcade, which I'm super excited to go check out.
Yes, we're gonna go and do a little maybe what do you call that, an episode?
A field trip.
A field trip. Report back.
Yeah. Do you have your permission slips signed by your kids?
And that's that's one of the things I was reading is that these malls have to find ways to be inventive.
Yeah.
Reasons for people to come out again,
Yeah.
and whether that's Tiffany in concert, or live recording of Latch-Key Dads at a local arcade.
Yeah, I think that might be what everyone needs. Hey, Greg, I was thinking maybe we play a game.
Sounds like a good idea, Tim. So we came up with a game called Mall Store, Band, or Atari Game. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back and forth quizzing one another, and we're going to give 3 names. One of them is going to be a mall store, one of them is going to be a band, and the other is going to be obviously an Atari game. And of course, they're all from the 1980s.
Easy enough, right?
Easy enough. But the object is for the other person to correctly categorize the 3 terms that they're going to be given.
I'm going to be really terrible at this, I'm quite certain.
At first person to 3 wins?
Sounds great.
All
Let's
right.
do it. All right, Greg, I'm going to
Okay.
give you the following. Here we go. Adolescence, Commander Salamander, and Mangia.
Okay, I think I got this. I got this. We're in the process of elimination. There is no way Commander Salamander is not an Atari game. All right, so that's my guess. That's an Atari game.
Okay.
Mangia, I am Italian, so that's got to be a mall store. Because
Okay.
you figure that's like a food court kind of place. And so that would lead Adolescence as the... Oh, wait a minute. Oh, no. I think I'm wrong. Dang. Okay. No, I'm just going... No, wait. Yeah. All right, I'm doing it. Adolescence is the band. Commander Salamander is the Atari game. And Manja is the mall store.
Well, you got 1 out of 3.
Oh, man.
I threw you a curveball there with Commander Salamander. I inscripted my wife in this game, and that is a store back in the 80s
Holy
in
crow.
D.C. Commander
Wow.
Salamander.
Okay.
Mangia was a kind of weird, random Atari game, and the Adolescence was correct. That is a band.
Wow. My 80s card has been revoked.
Well, I'm sure. Just wait. Let me see how badly I do it.
See, I went a little more mainstream here, Tim. All right. So I've got some here for you.
Okay.
We're going to go with Spaceport.
Okay.
We're going to go with Surround.
Okay.
And Bow Wow Wow.
All right. Well, I am going to go with Surround as the store, Bow Wow Wow as the band, and Spaceport as the game.
So close. You were correct. Bow Wow Wow is the band.
All right.
And bonus points for naming the song. Any guess at the song, their hit song in the 80s? I Want Candy.
Ah, yes.
Okay. Surround is actually an Atari.
I can't believe I said Spaceport was not a store. Oh my gosh.
Right?
What's wrong with me? I think my brain was like space. It's got to be a game.
It's
But
gotta
yeah,
be a game.
Spaceport. I totally know Spaceport.
Everybody. Well, if you don't know, that's the arcade
Yeah.
back in the 80s where we all played and spent our quarters.
I'm ashamed. I blew so much money at the Spaceport. Oh boy. All right. Well, here we go. Let's see. We're both what, 1 out of 3, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we give each. Oh wait. So we're making up the rules as we go on. We do get a point though.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 1 point each.
1 point
All right,
each.
There we go. Okay. Round 2. Here we go. All right. Here we go. Merry-Go-Round.
Okay.
Birthday Mania. And MDC.
MDC.
Yes.
All right. Merry-Go-Round, I am 99% sure is a store in the mall.
Okay.
Even though Birthday Mania sounds like a store mall, I think Birthday Mania is an Atari game, which by process of elimination makes MDC is a band.
Ding, ding, ding. Greg, all 3 in that round.
Wow.
All right. Pressure is on.
Pressure is on Tim. All right. I'm going to write down 3, circle it, and star it. Because I got this.
Greg gets an A.
All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
New shoes.
Okay.
Would you like me to spell that?
Sure.
N-U, new, and then shoes. S-H-O-O-Z.
Okay.
Hit or miss.
Okay.
And then finally, how about Monte Carlo? It's a good game.
Oh, boy. I'm not feeling real good about my chances of going 3 for 3 like you. All right. I'm going to go... This is surprisingly more difficult than I thought it was going to be. All right, here we go. I'm just going to go. Atari game is Monte Carlo.
Okay.
And the store is Hit or Miss. And New Shoes is a band.
What? Ding, ding, ding. 3 out of 3.
All right.
Nicely
all right.
done.
Here we go. Keeping it even.
I thought you'd fall for the New Shoes being a store.
Yeah. That one, I think I might have heard of New Shoes. It kind of rung a bell somewhere deep in the recesses of my brain.
They sing the song, I Can't Wait.
There we go. There we go.
I don't know that song.
I don't either. Okay, round 3.
Okay.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Lockjaw. Deb. And The Jam.
Well, I do know Deb.
Okay.
Deb was a big store in the mall I went to in the 1980s. So
Not your high school girlfriend,
No. So I know Deb is a store. That one I know for sure. I mean, the other two just seem like a complete toss-up. I'm going to say The Jam is a band, just because Jam, band, and Lockjaw is the game.
Very good. 3 for 3 again.
Woo!
Greg
All
killing it.
right. All right. Are you ready for your last round items here?
Let's go.
Okay, number 1, Chess King.
Okay.
Number 2, Dog Days. Would you like me to spell days?
Sure.
D-A-Z-E.
All right.
And then finally, The Last Resort.
These are interesting options for a band, a store, and an Atari game. All right, let's see. I am going to go with... Let's see if this works for me. I don't know if I like that. Okay, well, I'm leaving a lot of dead air as I'm pondering my options.
Think of our listeners, Tim.
I know, this is not...
They're screaming in their car going, how do you not know this?
I know. I'm going to let y'all down. So, let's go with... Okay, I'm just going to go with it. Chess King is the Atari game, Dog Days is the band, and The Last Resort is the store, which I know are all wrong.
They're all wrong. So Chess King, I did shop at that one. That is a store.
Okay.
The Chess King was a store. They had like button-down shirts, a little higher end kind of stuff. The Last Resort is a band who I didn't even write down what song they sing, but they did have a one-hit wonder. And then the Dog Days is an Atari game.
All right. Well, I managed to get them all wrong, so I'm actually quite proud of that.
Well, that was a success.
Yeah.
Well done.
And congrats to you, Greg. You
thank
win
you.
round 1 of our game.
Of many, many rounds.
All right, cool.
Hey, Tim, I think it's about time we do our report card for this episode.
Sounds good. Looking back, I know we talk about in the mall that there was a great pizza shop that you like to go to, and we couldn't think of what the name of it was, and that pizza store was Sbarro's.
Ah, Sbarro's. Of course it was. So I made a mistake on our previous episode, our January 1984 episode, Tim, and, when we were talking about the Van Halen video Hot for Teacher, I had said, have you seen Junior's Grades? Which is from the Van Halen song And the Cradle Will Rock, not the Hot for Teacher video. And I have been inundated with thousands of emails from Van Halen fans noticing this error. Well, not really, but anyway, my bad.
Well, I'm glad you clarified because, I was worried that one day you would realize it and, feel really bad about it. So I'm glad you caught it so quickly. So.
When we get that Alex Van Halen interview.
Exactly. That's right. We also talk about some of our favorite games at the arcade, and I mentioned a racing game, and of course couldn't remember the name of it. And that game that I loved to play was called Outrun.
Ah, yes, that was a good one. Please note also that we do encourage children and adults to wear protective gear, including helmets, while biking, skateboarding, rollerblading, parkouring, etc., whatever it is. Now that we're dads, we can say that safety is way more important than looking cool. Oh, by the way, Tim, nice New Balance shoes.
Oh, thanks, Greg. And I meant to ask you, where did you get that sweet new fanny pack?
Tim, did you know that listeners should like, review, and subscribe to the Latch-Key Dads podcast?
No. But now I know.
No,
Knowing exactly about it.